Shire of Dundas recognises the Ngadju and Mirning as traditional custodians in the Shire of Dundas and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We have nobody attending by electronic means. Item 2, do we have any declarations of interest, any financial interest?
No.
Proximity?
No.
Partiality?
No.
Any gifts?
No.
The governor's
We received one.
FYI, the Governor's Medal is not classed as a gift. As Mrs. Governor pointed out, they are not for sale, therefore they cannot be valued.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's what we're going with. We have a public gallery. Do we have any questions from the public gallery? No. We have no petitions or deputations. I have no announcements, except that I think our visit to the Governor went quite well today. Item 7.1, the Walga Climate Change Advocacy Position Review and Submission. The recommendation on page 9.
I'll make it.
That's McLeod. Any seconds?
Second that.
That's the one. If you speak to Councillor McLeod.
No, I just think it's a good idea. No, thanks.
Anybody like to speak against it? I would like to say a few words in favour of a slight departure from Walga's thing. So there's a couple of things that keep me awake at night in relation to this stuff. First of all, carbon dioxide, essential for all life on the planet. Cannot get my head around the idea that it's a pollutant. And the other thing that keeps me awake is if climate change is from a man-made impact, then why didn't the temperatures rise suddenly during the Industrial Revolution? Because the world had never seen anything like that, and they've bluffed and puffed everything into the air.
They did the worst of it.
Yeah. So it doesn't sit well with me. And as far as the rising sea levels, do the old ice in the glass trick. When the ice melts, the glass doesn't overflow because it's already part of the whole thing. So the other thing that bothers me is with this transition to renewables, the sheer scale of the cost, including the subsidies that get paid to these mostly foreign companies, it's just not sustainable. It's not financially sustainable. If we ran our local governments like that, just handing out money that you've got no prospect of getting any return on ever, we'd get shut down in a heartbeat. There's no mechanism to recoup the costs from any of that infrastructure. And it's just going to keep rolling along because you have to just replace the whole system every 20 years, whatever. Yes, apparently we can now start to recycle some things, but the recycling technology is not keeping up with the sheer volume of stuff that needs to be recycled, and it's also not widely available in this country. My other issue is, why are we only focused on two options? Giant wind turbines that have this massive concrete footprint and solar panels, and they're just covering all of our farmland. It doesn't make sense. So I think we need to put a bit more emphasis on some research and development into alternative methods. I mean, I haven't got an issue with, improving the way we do things. Sure, there's probably better ways. Look at them, find them. There's people far cleverer than I am working on that already. So this current technology, the wind and solar that's being rolled out, is being rolled out at the expense of our agricultural industry. So somebody's got to feed us. If we end up, we're beholden to the rest of the world for almost everything in this country now. We don't seem to make anything here. If we then rely on somebody else to feed us, I think we're on a slippery slope to I don't know what. And in terms of local government now being bound to plan and mitigate the effects of climate change, is it really mitigation that we need to do, or is it just planning? For example, they keep saying fires are hotter and more frequent. Are they really, or do we just have no staff in the departments that look after our forests, and we don't do any burning? We don't do any cool burning anymore. And so, of course, they're going to be hotter and more frequent because there's more fuel load. Floods, where floods have never been before. You know, the Egyptians had that pretty well knocked. They had the wit not to build on a floodplain. So, I mean, that's where you grow your veggies, on the floodplain, because the flood comes through and it dumps a whole load of nice new soil on it and everything grows fantastic and we're all happy. But then there's some towns now in the chase for mitigation. So now they've got levee banks around their town, and that's great because now they don't get flooded. But the town down the river a bit further now gets flooded, and they suddenly go, it's climate change. We've never been flooded before. No, actually, it's because your mate up the road's got a levee bank. They've stopped the water getting on their bit, but the water is still physically there and it's still got to go somewhere. So it goes to the next place. So, I mean, is that climate change or is that planning again? And coastal erosion, really, again, planning. If you build right on the edge of a landmass that is subject to constant water movement, that landmass is not going to stay the same. It's going to move. It's going to change. So, you know, I mean, mitigation in that respect, it could be relatively cheap to achieve because we just need to plan better. Don't put the buildings where they shouldn't be. And we're halfway to happiness. Anyway, that's my take on it. So I'm quite happy to support that recommendation, and I'll be saying something quite similar when we have our state council meeting, which could get a bit spicy like the last one did when we discussed this. Okay, so anybody else like to say anything? Everyone happy? So we have a recommendation that Council 1 note the Walga Climate Change Advocacy Position Consultation Paper as contained in Attachment 1 to this report. 2, express concern regarding cost shifting to local government, rushed regulatory reform, lack of sustainable funding frameworks, inadequate recycling and infrastructure planning, economic and employment impacts on regional communities. 3, advocate that climate policy must be balanced, evidence-based and economically sustainable. All additional local government responsibilities must be fully funded by state and federal governments. Policy implementation must be preceded by research, testing and infrastructure readiness. 4, request Walga to incorporate explicit cost protection mechanisms, regional economic impact modelling, transitional funding guarantees, investment in recycling and infrastructure systems. And 5, endorse a position that local government should not carry the primary financial burden of climate reform. Those in favour? Okay, our next special meeting will be called as required, and as we have no further business on this agenda, the meeting closed at 6:08. Thank you, everybody.